Hello YouTube, it's yours truly, Joshua Patterson, and I wanted to welcome you all to the final episode of Honestly Single for the year 2022. Yes, we have come a long way. It's been quite a year. It's been a long year, but at the same time, it's been a short year. But we made it, and I hope everybody enjoyed the holidays. Personally, I traveled for Christmas. I went across town to see my family. I had a great and unforgettable time with them, and we just really enjoyed ourselves. It was a restful 3-day weekend for me, so we just spent time exchanging gifts. It was a blessing for me to see the look on my sister's face when she not only got a new record player, but I got her a vinyl album. I got her a copy of Michael Jackson's Bad from a record store downtown. So it was just cool, just to see the light on everyone's faces, but even beyond the gifts, just to spend quality time with your loved ones. So it was a huge blessing. I went to see the new Avatar movie. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, I strongly recommend it. I know it's been 13 years since the first title, but this second one was pretty good. And it's especially good in 3D. I recommend if you see it, definitely take the time to check it out in 3D. It's worth every cent. My friend and I actually saw it incidentally in 3D format, but it was great. Everything was right in your face. There was fire. The flames were so close on you. I felt like the sparks were going to touch my nose. So that's pretty good quality 3D. But as we close out this year, I just want to really take the time to reflect just on my experiences and also just my personal outlook on the dating landscape today. As you know, with Honestly Single, we are focused here on building from the ground up as opposed to from the top down when it comes to our relationships. So everything I share here is meant to establish and develop a functional blueprint for anybody who's looking for meaningful relationships in their lives. So ultimately, that's the goal of Honestly Single. But going into this coming year, 2023, I've already gotten a good look at some of the things that I'd like to talk about. And for starters, I just wanted to say flat out that we all need to heal. Every last one of us, myself included. This project I'm developing now has been a part of that healing process, but we certainly all need to heal. I've come across a lot of people who have struggled to make peace with their past. For example, there was a young lady I was speaking to who just evidently had a bit of trust issues, and without going into too many details, she run me through what you could say are these kind of litmus tests. But before I even go through that, I did want to mention just even the expectations she had. A lot of them were connected with to negative experiences that she had in times past with her ex. Obviously, she didn't want to deal with that again, so she gave some requirements. Like, for example, she wasn't about to put up with me talking down to her or calling her out of her name. That's understandable. Nobody likes that. Secondly, of course, she wasn't in the mood for games. She didn't want anybody playing games with her. She wouldn't tolerate lies. And again, that's understandable. But my biggest question, even as she unfolded and sort of unraveled all of these things before me, is what makes you think I have it out for you? Seriously, what has you convinced that, I would desire to do any of these things to you anyway? Granted, there's some genuinely bad people who have dishonest intentions, but, my biggest issue was the fact that this young lady didn't know me. I wanted to say that flat out. I just wanted to tell her, look, you don't know me, and you haven't given me the chance to show you who I am. And it was just sad, and it's not limited to women. It's not a gender specific thing. Men and women are having issues. There are people who ghost other people just to test their loyalty, to see if someone really desires them or wants to chase after them. I should know, because that's something that's happened to me. These are things that I'm deriving from my personal experience. And then the people who've been played, interestingly and ironically, they turn around and then they play games with others, to see, if this person who, claims interest in them is really about it, so to speak. So, now in addition to ghosting, they're the one, playing around, and testing people with, whatever personal rubric that they have. And I see a lot of that. I see, a lot of people on TikTok just really being toxic, just radiating all of their disappointment and their frustrations with their dating experience, passing on bad advice. I've seen, women encourage other women to, adopt the habits of some of the bad men they've dated. For example, if he's somebody who hasn't made it clear that, he's committed to you, apparently the solution is to, keep your options open. So, if he has other people, if he's two-timing, well, you should be two-timing as well, because you don't, owe him any kind of commitment, any kind of investment that he's not willing to give on his own end. And you can understand from the perspective of compassion where that decision comes from, but my argument is that there's a much better solution. What I think is so interesting about a lot of people who come out of these hurtful and traumatic relationships is that in an interesting way, they for whatever reason want, to adopt the practices of the person who hurt them. It's almost like they draw inspiration from that individual. So really, Mr. Wrong never dies. He's never put to death by time. He's never dismissed in the past. He gets to be a repeat offender. But the interesting thing is he does it through the people he hurts. So without him voluntarily doing anything to anyone else, let's say he just goes on about his life and he's, not even up to any other nonsense. But, he continues to perpetuate pain because now he's able to live again through the people he's hurt. So Mr. Wrong gets to strike again because, old girl is out here, adopting his habits. Now she's the one, cheating. Now she's the one two-timing. Now she's the one being toxic and talking down, to the next man she sees who might actually turn out to be a good person. So my argument is Mr. Wrong never dies. He never gets put to death because he's allowed to perpetuate his hurt through the people he left his stain on. So, really he strikes again and again because we have people in this world who just really haven't put their past to death. They haven't dealt with their trauma. We have a lot of people in this world who, bottom line, need counseling. And that's why I developed Honestly Single, not to provide necessarily the perfect solution, not to provide the complete and most composite solution, but, just functional wisdom for some of the challenges that we deal with in relationships. We just live in this very challenging world where, people are making decisions out of certain appetites that they haven't regulated and moderated properly. Just people doing what they feel like doing as opposed to doing what's functional. It's always what's sensational these days that seems to have priority over what's functional. So what you have is men who are leaving blood trails, because, they're getting into relationships and they aren't really coming in with any intentions, and their compassion, or I should say more specifically, simply their passion or lust for their person of interest, it only lasts as long as their sexual drive or the hunger of their libido. So, once they're done eating, they toss the plate aside and leave. And that's it's a prevalent issue. Not every man is doing it, but, it occurs often enough to where, we have certain groups of women calling men trash. And I just find that to be very alarming, especially, considering the fact that I've very much witnessed good men and been inspired by their examples in this world. And then secondly, we have women who are struggling to trust. And that's a big problem too, because that trust has been violated so many times, again, by a man or by whoever their partners are who didn't have any genuine intentions. So, now you have women resorting to, dysfunctional coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms to protect themselves. On top of that, you have the accelerating movements, the different branches of feminism that are emerging, from the Me Too cultural revolution to other developments. And while there are good components to those movements, there are also some more negative components, some, what I would argue, some toxic components that motivate women to weaponize their femininity against men. And, they of course, this of course inspires them to, create strongholds and build fortifications against men. And I'd say that's okay unless you're genuinely looking for a meaningful relationship, and unless you genuinely hope to see some kind of healthy outcome in your dating life. That kind of militant attitude really isn't going to help you if you're truly looking to connect with someone. So, I have some functional solutions that fall into several departments, and I'm going to break down each of these over the course of the next several weeks. We're going into the new year, so I've got some new and some great curriculum for you all. So the first branch and the first concept that I will be discussing is the idea of patience. I think it's important for us all to definitely exercise patience in our dating experiences. I think one of the greatest issues we have is our unhealthy tendency to escalate in an engagement, a relationship, to a level that it doesn't quite belong at just yet. I think we can awaken love all too often before its appropriate time, and that's what ends up getting us in trouble. I think that when it comes to patience, we really have to take the time to just really figure out who it is we're talking to. Take the time to really understand who the other person is, what drives them, what their values are, what their intentions are, so many other things. And it's okay to just be friends, but also I just want to say, bottom line, it's okay to wait, period. There's nothing wrong with singleness. Singleness is okay. Not only does it help you to figure out, what you desire, for yourself, what will help and assist you in what will be a meaningful relationship unto you, but it also helps you figure out what you need to be unto others. It helps you to refine your character because, we don't always come into relationships, obviously, with a mature perspective. There's a lot about that immaturity component that tends to end up getting us hurt. So I definitely want to talk about patience. I think there's a lot of benefit to slowing your roll. The second thing that I want to discuss is the importance of discernment. And discernment falls in line, of course, perfectly with patience. In order to read clearly into anything, you have to, first and foremost, of course, take the time to study it. But I think another thing that we need to do is more than just, looking at people and their character, and of course the posture of their hearts, not just understanding who they are, but also the context in which they operate. So essentially, when it comes to discernment, we want to see how people act under different situations, different circumstances. What is his or her relationship like with their mother or their father? How do they react when they're disappointed? How do they respond to disappointment? Are they self-sacrificial? Are they selfless, or are they the type to be selfish? Are they good teammates? Are they accountable partners? All of these things. Do they exercise charity? These are all just a handful of the questions that you have to ask when it comes to discernment, because of course there's so much that we get led astray by. We have a tendency to look at the package and fall in love with the package as opposed to really evaluating the contents that package came in. So I'm also going to be talking about discernment because I think discernment is just absolutely critical in this day and age, especially in this culture of superficiality where, we're playing show and tell everywhere, especially on our social media apps. The third thing I want to talk about is peace. Now, peace is absolutely critical because you need peace, in different phases and at different stages of your relationship. Regardless of the status, whether you're single, whether you're in that season of being single, whether you're in the middle of a relationship, and even when you're finding your way in the aftermath of an unhealthy relationship. Peace is important in all of those phases. You need the peace to really understand who you are and what you desire out of a purposeful relationship. When you're single, you need the peace to properly navigate, the turbulence that comes with a relationship, the challenges that come with two people working together to run the marathon of life and take on all of life's challenges. You certainly need peace for that. Also, you need peace even in the aftermath of an unfortunate breakup. You need peace to keep your mind in perspective, not to give up hope, not to beat up on yourself, to understand that in some cases it's nobody's fault, and simply to move forward and to look at where you need to be and where your focus needs to be from that point forward. Because how you address and how you respond even to that adversity, that could influence the kind of doors that open up to you later on in life, especially if you seek to desire a relationship that does bring true fulfillment and that does have lifelong longevity, something that's truly built to last. So these things are all important. It's critical for us to have peace, to salvage hope, and to just understand that we don't have to resort to falling victim to either rigid doubt or having unhealthy expectations. I think we should always come into our soul searching journey with healthy expectations. Really being on the outlook for something good to happen. So peace is critical, and I'll be talking about that. And the last thing that I want to discuss, last but most definitely not least, is the importance of letting the heart win. I think it's critical for us regardless of whatever situation we're facing, to always allow the situation to end, to dismiss it with the spirit of love. I think that in my opinion, in my honest opinion, you don't truly understand what love is until you reach a place where you can respectfully say goodbye to something that looked promising in the beginning, but something that at this point you have to dismiss and say goodbye to. So until you can dismiss certain opportunities with the same breath of kindness that you had when you first said hello, you don't quite understand love just yet. I wouldn't say. A lot of people talk about the importance of loving oneself. You have to love yourself. But sometimes self-love can certainly turn into selfishness, to the point where, everything becomes oriented around your personal convenience. So it's not just a matter of loving yourself. I would argue that also how you love others, your appreciation for yourself and understanding of yourself should motivate you also to be patient with others, to exercise grace, and to also just really understand that, when certain things don't work out, it's okay to agree to disagree. So I think, even when it comes to couples, one true measure of love is, them really taking the time to, pace themselves with each other through the journey of life and ask, not how can you benefit me, not how can you serve me, and not how can I serve you either, but most importantly, how can we win together? And if it comes to a point where, we just can't seem to make it, how do we move apart? When it's time to move apart, how do we dismiss one another respectfully and maintain a healthy perspective going forward? What do we do? How do we handle that? So I think that with love, it really comes down to where you're rooted. You're not going to survive the marathon of love unless you're first rooted in the vehicle of love. And by saying that, I say all of that to say love is not a thing that you go to look out for. I want to get everyone to a place where they're not out looking for love, searching for it in other people, assuming that their sense of fulfillment and purpose is going to be rooted in that perfect person, because nobody is perfect. So you're not looking for love, but love is where you're coming from. So how do we erect and establish within ourselves a foundation of love that influences how we treat not just others, but also the situations that we're placed in with others that may involve others? So, how do we reach that place to where we can love anybody? We know how to say hello and how to say goodbye in peace, because first and foremost, we're at one and at peace with ourselves, and we have love and appreciation for ourselves. And then, moreover, how does that lead us and guide us to find someone else who's rooted in the same place? So, when it comes to love, it's not necessarily something that you fall into, it's what you rise up from. And you're looking for somebody else who comes from the same hometown. So, I want to bring everyone to a place where we are individuals who, have a clear perspective, we're rooted in love, and we're looking for other people who figured out that same special true love. So these are all of the things that I'm looking forward to talking to in the year 2023. That's actually how I'm going to open up the year. I'll be discussing these over the next several weeks. I'm starting in January, but I want to share this all with you, and I hope that overall you enjoyed this episode and you received something beneficial from what I've had to share. I want to thank you all so much for your time. And again, I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and also I wish you all a happy and outstanding New Year. So take care. Stay safe, and let's get ready for what's in store.